And now I would like to introduce to you Veronica Oakler, Clean Water for North Carolina's new Executive Director. For those of you who haven't had the pleasure to meet her yet, she formerly lived and worked in Florida, where she practiced law and policy for 10 years, concentrating on environmental, land use, and real estate issues. She's written laws requiring pollution notification in the oil and gas sector, as well as comprehensive spring watershed safeguards. She's helped government agencies meet their legal and regulatory environmental duties and previously analyzed and conducted outreach regarding disparate air toxicity impacts. Through her expertise on these matters, she's contributing to our environmental justice law and policy work, as well as our water justice and polluter accountability programs. She's already proven herself to be a caring and fair-minded leader devoted to the mission of this organization to promote clean, safe water and environments and empower just communities for all North Carolinians. Please give a nice Zoom wave for Veronica Oakler.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so glad to see all of you here. It's really exciting to have so many wonderful faces. I know we could only have so many people on our meeting today, so we will be recording this for later for those of your friends who would have liked to join and couldn't. So thank you so much for coming. To get us started, I wanted to hear from you a little bit about, in a few words, how would you describe environmental justice? Feel free to answer in the chat box. Just trying to get an understanding on what you think environmental justice is, what matters to you, and it'll probably help me a little bit to know just how detailed to get in this introduction to everyone. So don't be shy, feel free to type in the chat and I'll pause just a moment so you have some quiet time to think and write. All right, I'm seeing some coming in now. I see do no harm to our environment. EJ means clean, safe, healthy environments to live and work for all. Access to clean water and air, as well as safe and nutritious food for all communities. And these are all some really great examples. So feel free to keep typing some in as we go. But I just wanted to give y'all a quick definition to get us started and lay a foundation. So what is environmental justice? Well, according to the EPA, environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income. And this is with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. So really, we all deal with pollution to varying degrees, but there are some disproportionate impacts. And that is where we're seeing environmental justice coming in. So now I want to look at Title VI. Title VI is an aspect or a tool that we use in environmental justice. It is part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And so in particular, I'd like to hear from you. How familiar are you with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act? If you can type in 1 if you're not familiar, 5 if you're super familiar, or anywhere in between, just to kind of give me an idea of where you are. So I'm seeing 1s and 5s. I expected to see a lot more 2s through 4s. So I'm glad to see we have quite a bit of a range here for y'all today. So I will give y'all just a little bit of a background of what Title VI is of the Civil Rights Act to help you understand a little bit more about what Naima and Belinda will be talking about today. So let's see, what is Title VI? Title VI specifies that no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. That's a bit of a mouthful. So what does that really mean? Well, in other words, Title VI prohibits discrimination from recipients of federal financial assistance, and it doesn't allow them to discriminate based on race, color, or national origin. So federal financial assistance means that it's a federal government agency or a state agency that receives federal funds, such as when they've been delegated a federal duty. So I wanted to make a quick note, though, about national origin. For national origin, the discrimination there specifically includes place of birth, ethnicity or ancestry, culture related to national origin, and ability to speak English. These are all aspects of one's national origin that may or may not be impacted in the environmental justice and Title VI realm. So I want to talk to you a little bit about discrimination, but I'd love to hear from you. What is discrimination? Here's another poll and a chance for you to type into the chat. I want to hear from you. What is discrimination? So provide an example in the chat box of what discrimination means to you, or an example of some type of discrimination that you have experienced or seen. So one example is saying you are denied program services, aids, or benefits, or you're given bigger burdens than others purely because of your race, your color, or your national origin. I'm curious if you have any experience that you'd like to share that I can read out to the group, just as an example. I'm seeing here one person saying landfills located in communities of color and lower income. So yes, that's actually a really good example and something I want to touch on, where Title VI does not look at rural areas or low income as an aspect of protection. This is where environmental justice is trying to fill that gap. Environmental justice is looking at low income and rural areas in addition to protecting race, color, and national origin. So I'm seeing here too, non-English speakers being denied access to critical health information because the information is only provided in English. So there are also some really great examples of discrimination. So next, I want to talk to you a little bit about what the two main types of discrimination are, specifically under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Intentional discrimination is the first one, and it focuses on motive and intent. It's where an act or omission is because of the actual or perceived race, color, or national origin. This is discriminatory motive. An example would be the facility can be permitted here because poor and BIPOC, or Black, Indigenous, people of color, and people live here, or because Caucasian people don't live here. That's explicitly the decision why it's being included or not included. Another kind is disparate impacts. This is where motive is irrelevant. And as you can see in this little drawing here, it's looking at the outcomes, the consequences, not motivation. This is where a supposedly neutral policy or practice actually has a disproportionate and adverse effect. So you can see here, the neutral policy would be, well, everyone has to share and carry their burden equally. Everyone has to carry 3 stones. But as you can see in the diagram here, if some of the people are carrying larger stones than others, it becomes imbalanced. And we end up with some portions of our population carrying a much heavier burden, even though we're all neutrally carrying just 3 stones. So when we're looking at what's neutral and what's not, that's where we're having some extra steps we'll have to take that we'll discuss a little bit more after you've heard from Belinda and Naima on their stories. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what Title VI is versus environmental justice. Title VI focuses on avoiding discrimination based on race, color, and national origin. That's how Title VI works. Environmental justice, or EJ, focuses on justice and equity for all races, national origins, plus rural and low income. So this is something I previously mentioned here, that there are some gaps in Title VI, and these are just some, where EJ is coming in and trying to fill those gaps. So we have to ask, is it just a coincidence that polluting facilities are more often cited and permitted and less often enforced upon in low income, rural, and BIPOC communities? We can't blame the government agent employees who are just doing their job. Something's clearly lacking somewhere. We're thinking it's in the law and a little bit of NIMBY. What's NIMBY? It's not in my backyard. Essentially, it's not about forcing these polluting industries onto affluent, suburbanized, or Caucasian communities. It's about those with the power to be heard saying, NIMBY, not in my backyard. And the consequence is that this burden then falls on the shoulders of those without that power. So don't take my word for it. Let's listen to our speakers to share their stories, and then you can decide.